Again, thanks for joining us here today on WEKZ AM 1260 and FM 95.5 for To The Point. Mike Sweetful here, and kind of a farewell edition of To The Point with our Greene County Leaders Program. They finished up a couple of Wednesdays ago now. Time's flying by here in the month of May, but please be joined here talking about the wrap-up and what these two gentlemen took away from the program. Let's let them introduce themselves here in the program. We'll start here. Aaron?
Aaron Corder, Colony Brands.
All right, Aaron, thanks for joining us. What do you do at Colony Brands?
I'm an IT product owner. I'm responsible for the point of contact between the customer and our company outside of the web.
All right, now that sounds like something that could be done in person or virtual. What does that look like then?
Yep, so right now we are a mix. So in the office a couple of days a week, at home Monday and Friday.
All right, fantastic. Where are you from? Give us a little background on Aaron.
Sure, so born in Daytona Beach, Florida. Moved up to Long Island for a couple of years, spent some time in Queens, moved down to the Midwest when I was a couple of years old and bounced around a whole bunch. Moved here about 7 years ago.
All right. Love it. I'm hoping the cheese curds and the beverages got to be good, right?
Yeah. It is a great place to live. Great place to raise kids.
All right. Fantastic. What drew you into Greene County Leaders? How did you kind of get the tires kicked on joining this year's class?
Actually, this was, I think, the third time that I had been approached about it at work. The first time my daughter had just been born. The second time my boss was a little late, so I didn't end up making it. But it was just being new to the area, something that I thought would be interesting to learn more about Greene County and, what types of opportunities there are with, organizations.
All right. Well, it sounds like here from our early impressions that you enjoyed the class. We'll talk more about that, your big takeaways, in just a little bit. But a dynamic duo from Colony Brands joining us here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Tyler.
I'm Tyler Hochraffer, and I work in IT security at Colony Brands.
All right. Both IT, but yours is a little different. Talk about your role.
Yeah, mine's more on the cybersecurity side of things. So dealing with threat management. I'm looking for threats constantly and searching logs for any kind of risk to the company.
All right. Well, hopefully we're all clear here today. So we'll leave that as that. How long have you been in the area, or where are you from here, Tyler?
I'm originally from Freeport, Illinois, and still in Freeport, Illinois. I just come up to Monroe to work at Colony Brands. Been there for about almost 10 years now. Been in IT security for about 5 of those years.
Okay, fantastic. Now, how did you get approached to Greene County Leaders, and how did you get into this class this year?
Before entering Greene County Leaders, I hadn't heard about it before. My boss actually approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to be in a role of leadership someday, like a manager or something?" And yeah, absolutely. So he said, this would be a great program for you. He knows a lot of people at work that have gone through the program. And he says it's an amazing experience and you take a lot away from it. So he shot it my way, and luckily I was able to join.
All right. May 10th, I believe, was your guys' final class graduation, so to speak, of this near year-round Greene County Leaders class. Let's start first with you, Tyler, here. What was kind of your big initial impression to Greene County Leaders? Doesn't sound like you had much to go off of compared to everything you kind of had to endure, go through, learn, kind of see for yourself what Greene County has to offer and how it works to graduation. What was kind of your big takeaway after your initial impression?
Yeah, initial impressions, to be quite honest, during the first meeting or so, I was a little bored, I would say. Just a whole new experience. I'm like, oh, they're just trying to teach you how to be a better person, yada, yada. But actually going through each session, talking to different people, networking, experiencing different locations in Greene County and visiting those, it blew my mind, actually. We learned a lot about kind of what my boss was talking about, how to be a good leader, how to be a good facilitator, and the attributes and skills to be one of those. So I'm very much thankful for them pushing me to go into the program and for actually sticking with it.
All right. Kind of the same question for you, Aaron. You've bounced around this great big nation we got here, but settled down here in the Midwest. Familiar with cities and towns like an Albany, a Monticello, even a Belleville. What was your kind of big takeaway going to some of these other spots in Greene County?
Yeah, so I think the tight-knit communities was one of the most impressive things with all of these smaller towns. Seeing some of the things that those communities band together to do, a lot of these places we went to, I didn't even know existed, which we heard was kind of a common theme. People who'd been here for a really long time didn't know about certain places or certain, organizations that were working together in these small communities. And it really shows they're really proud of their communities.
All right. Now, you guys went through this class again about a year round, learned a lot about yourself, learned a lot about other people, as well as ways to communicate. I think you kind of touched on that, Tyler, and how to communicate and really how to maybe resonate with how they might be thinking, how they might be interpreting things. Have you guys already seen a different approach in the day-to-day aspect at Colony Brands with maybe how you're going about conversations, working through problems?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most effective things for me was we did a what's it called, Aaron? Colors, to figure out kind of what our strengths are, our weaknesses are, in communicating with others, with processing information. 5 years ago, I was orange, so I was more the free-spirited type of person. Ever since having kids and kind of moving up in my role, I've kind of turned into gold now. I require checklists, and those keep me going on a certain path throughout the day to get things done. And the more I check off, the more I get done. And it's definitely helped me when I'm working with other teams, working with other players, to get things accomplished effectively.
Those checklists, I think those come in handy as dads, don't they? Making sure you got everything in the diaper
Absolutely.
bag, right? Aaron, kind of the same question for you. What's something that you've kind of taken away and have implemented in the office here?
Sure. Early on, we had a session on active listening, all about, instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, taking time to actually hear the person you're communicating with. And I've found myself thinking back to that session in lots of meetings when I'm thinking about the next thing that's going to come up and what we need to jump into. And instead, remembering that helps me focus back on the conversation at hand and actually paying attention to what's going on and making it a more useful conversation, a fuller conversation.
All right, so you guys are going deep in here. I like this. What was something that surprised you? You guys talked a little bit already about some of the towns, some of the cities, the way they work, the close-knit of them. What's something that really surprised you about this whole process? Let's start first with you, Aaron.
So similar to something Tyler said, but I think the biggest surprise was just how much I enjoyed it. I heard a lot of feedback going in of people just saying, "Oh, it's really great. You'll like it," without a whole lot of context. And when I first went into it, there was a part of me that thought, this is just something that I have to do. It's a box I'll check in my career and I'll move on. And it did not take long to be a thing I look forward to every month, to be able to see the people that I had become friends with and looking forward to those next sessions, and really enjoyed them.
Big surprising aspect for you, Tyler?
Kind of relating to what Aaron said earlier about it being a close-knit community, I really found that people around here really care about a lot of different things. I've been in different groups throughout college and previous jobs, and there's just people that are, you got your optimists, but then you have your pessimists. And speaking of optimists, here in Monroe, they have an optimist group, an optimist club, which we got to visit to talk about the EV charging stations. And it was just an amazing experience because there were some negative things that we had to say about it, but they brought a positive aspect to it. So just the positivity in the community and within the group, Greene County leaders, whenever there was an issue, people would talk about it, people would network, they would come up with ideas, and it was just a really great experience.
All right, let's dive in here just a little bit. I'm going to veer away from kind of a look back here to this year's sessions that you guys have had, being the last group here with us on our airwaves here on WEKZ. Talk a little bit about the project aspect. Tyler, you talked about the EV station there. I know that was part of your project. What did you guys encounter here, and what did you guys look into?
Yeah, absolutely. So the EV feasibility study, we went into it really thinking, hey, we're going to be able to go past the study, and we're going to be able to get a charger or a few chargers in place in town. A few roadblocks along the way that didn't happen. So it turned into, we did the feasibility study, but we also did some awareness on it with the community, because we found out there's a lot of people, a lot of groups that aren't familiar with EV chargers or EV cards. And so we have a spot up on the GCDC website that talks about EV chargers, some statistics around those. There's a map to show visitors where some are around Greene County, where some chargers are. Yeah.
Okay. What was a big takeaway from that project? It sounds like how long of a process it could be to maybe put something in place, but it sounds like you guys really had to work through some roadblocks.
Yeah, absolutely. We thought it'd be really quick, really easy to do. We had a lot of the right connections, and a few of those fell through, and a few of those kind of left our sites, and we couldn't get our hands on them. So it turned out to be a lot more work than we thought it would be, and things go a little bit slower than we want them to go to get things done properly.
All right. Speaking of roadblocks, it sounds like understanding what your project was here, Aaron. You guys had really kind of roadblocks here all throughout yours as well, with the constant changing, it sounds like.
Yeah, so we were focused on ATV, UTV trails and trying to create a map. We based the idea off of the bicycle trail map that was created a few years back. We wanted to do that for ATVs. When you went to the Greene County website to click on the ATV map links, it took you to the Lafayette County website. So we identified a pain point there, started trying to figure out where those paths were. And one thing we found early on is that all of the towns in Greene County have a different set of laws tied to ATVs and UTVs. Some don't want them in town at all. Some only want them on certain roads. So, and each town was actively voting on changing some of those rules during our project. So we had kind of the map was shifting as we worked. And we learned that the most important thing to get really anything done is making sure you can connect with the right people. We had somebody join our project a couple of weeks in, and she had the idea of talking to somebody in the highway department, and that immediately just sped our project up because we had a really hard time up until that point. Similar to what Tyler said, our original goal was we wanted to have this path that led all around Greene County, that we could do something similar to a poker run, charity events with ATVs. And we had to scale back a little bit and just be satisfied that we were able to create a map that's going to go live on the tourism site soon.
All right. A lot of roadblocks. I know, talking with the highway department myself here, it's ever changing and evolving, especially you mentioned with the live passing or the non-passing of some roads and different laws there for different towns and municipalities. You get kind of a firsthand experience then, and kind of how government works there too, and boards, right?
Yeah. It's interesting sometimes, the bureaucracy and red tape tied to something that seems so simple to someone on the outside.
All right, fantastic. Well, great to hear about your guys' experience. Overall, I guess, give us a favorite. Was there a favorite place to go? A favorite town you visited? You guys, met every month from September through May. You guys just wrapped up your final month. Tyler and Aaron, who's got a favorite spot, a new spot that they visited, or favorite session you guys had?
I would say outside of the active listening session, one of my favorites might have been the day that we went to Albany. We did an exercise where we did a first impression exercise, and we had to walk around the town and document our first impressions. And for one, it was nice to be able to be outside and walk around, right? But we also had a lot of the same first impressions across different groups, and we found out later that they actually took our feedback and brought it to the city, and they're considering some of the points that we made while trying to improve things to bring in more tourism.
Anything you'd like to elaborate on? From Albany myself, so very interested here.
So a lot of what we identified was that the town seemed very close-knit, in the sense that there wasn't a lot that drew tourism in. There was very interesting downtown area, but not really signs pointing you there. There wasn't a whole lot of, I believe the website was a little hard to kind of get through to find events and things that are coming up. So everything we looked at basically pointed to, there are events here, but the town doesn't go out of its way to bring people to them. And I think that was something that it sounded like really sunk into them, that they had been trying to publicize these things, but didn't realize that from an outsider's perspective, maybe they didn't know where to look, or they weren't sure where to go.
All right. Very interesting. Tyler, same question for you.
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, what the, kind of something that was a memorable, whether it be a session, like the first impressions, favorite spots, favorite city. Just give us a favorite here. Kind of an open question.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as favorite location, I can't really name off one. I am not familiar with the area, being from Freeport, and so being able to travel to the different areas in Greene County, there were a lot of different things to take in, and a lot of different things I appreciated about the locations we visited and the communities we visited. As far as the sessions, things that I took away, I would say the first session and the last session were my favorite because they both focused on leadership and facilitating skills. What does it take to be a good leader? What does it take to have a group of people look up to you and respect you? And we talked about different attributes and skills for being that. You know, you got to have some kind of level of humility. Being a visionary, effective listening, integrity, trust. So a lot of those really resonated with me. One of the last quotes that we learned was, "Be the guide, not the hero." And that's something I'm a problem solver. I like to figure things out and solve it. It's a little more difficult for me to navigate people there, and especially having kids. I find myself often just solving the issue for them and not really walking them through that. So that's one big thing that I'm really taking away from this is stopping, slowing down, and being the guide, not the hero.
All right. Powerful stuff there to close it out here. Aaron, Tyler, congratulations. You guys made it through Greene County Leaders, and you guys will have that experience with you the rest of the way. Thanks for coming in here. Appreciate it. And we'll enjoy the rest of your day here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right. From Colony Brands, Aaron Corder and Tyler Holcrafter, our guests here today, talking about their experience with Greene County Leaders.